The chamber smelled of ozone and burnt metal. Queen Elena sat perfectly still as the holographic displays flickered around her, each one showing a different human colony burning. Vex'thor's scales rippled with colors that translated to satisfaction in his species. He leaned forward across the obsidian negotiation table, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Your people are dying," he said, his translator rendering his clicking speech into flat English. 12 worlds. 40 billion souls. Gone. Yet you sit here and refuse our terms. Why? Elena met his gaze without flinching. At 43, her face carried lines earned through 2 decades of leadership during humanity's expansion into the stars. She wore no crown, no ornate robes, just a simple gray uniform bearing Earth's insignia. Her hands rested on the table, steady as stone. "Because you don't understand what you're fighting," she said quietly. Vex'thor's translator chittered. "We understand perfectly, humans. Fragile, short-lived, weak compared to the Krell, the Voth, even the Sarians. You break easily. You die from things that merely inconvenience other species. Your ships are inferior, your weapons outdated. You should have surrendered at the First World. And yet we didn't. Foolishness. Pride." Vex'thor gestured at the burning colonies. "Look at your losses. How much more pain will you endure before you see reason?" Elena's expression didn't change. "That's the question, isn't it? How much pain can humans endure?" She leaned back in her chair. "Let me tell you a story about my species, Vex'thor. About what we are, what we've always been." The alien diplomat's scales flickered to a confused orange. "I did not come here for stories. You came here to understand why we won't surrender. This is your answer." Elena touched a control on her wrist. The burning colonies vanished, replaced by an image of ancient Earth. Ice covered most of the northern hemisphere. 70,000 years ago, my species nearly went extinct. A supervolcano erupted, plunged the world into winter, destroyed our food sources. Geneticists estimate we dropped to fewer than 10,000 individuals. Many species have faced extinction events. Yes, but most species either evolved to avoid pain or died out. Humans chose a third option. Elena zoomed in on the frozen landscape. "We walked out of Africa during the Ice Age, barefoot, bleeding, freezing. We hunted animals twice our size with sharpened sticks. We ate plants that poisoned us until we learned which parts wouldn't kill us. We gave birth in caves with no medicine while predators circled outside, and we survived. Not because we were strong, because we refused to stop." Vex'thor shifted uncomfortably. "Evolution is not philosophy. Pain tolerance isn't just in our genes, it's in our culture. Every human civilization across every continent developed traditions based on enduring suffering." She changed the image to show various human rituals. Vision quests where we starved ourselves for spiritual enlightenment. Coming-of-age ceremonies involving scarification, tattooing, physical trials. Some cultures pierced their flesh with hooks and hung from them. Others walked across burning coals. We did these things voluntarily, for honor, for growth, for proof we could survive anything. The alien scales had shifted to a deep purple. Confusion mixed with something else. Unease. Elena continued, her voice calm and measured. "My species has a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Most species treat that as metaphor. For humans, it's biology. Our bodies respond to stress by adapting. Muscles tear and rebuild denser. Bones fracture and heal harder. Pain teaches us, shapes us. We don't just endure it, we seek it out." "Madness," Vex'thor whispered. "Is it?" Elena stood, walking around the table. "Your species, the Zenari, you're remarkable. Your regeneration abilities are legendary. You can regrow limbs, survive wounds that would kill most others. But I've read your military reports. Do you know what happens when a Zenari soldier loses an arm in battle?" Vex'thor didn't answer. "They retreat. The pain overwhelms them. They withdraw to regenerate, to heal, to escape the suffering. It's instinct. Smart, really. Logical. Why endure pain when you can simply avoid it and return stronger later?" Elena pulled up a new video. Let me show you what happens when a human soldier loses an arm. The footage showed a battlefield on the 5th colony world. A human Marine, identified as David Torres, took a plasma blast that severed his right arm at the elbow. "Brrr!" he screamed. Then he picked up his rifle with his left hand and kept firing, kept advancing, kept fighting until the objective was secure. Only then did he collapse. He survived, Elena said. Refused sedation during the emergency surgery. Told the medics he wanted to remember every second. Said it would make him harder to kill next time. He's back in combat now with a prosthetic. Volunteers for the most dangerous missions. Vex'thor's scales had gone white. This is an anomaly. One soldier. I have 10,000 videos just like this one. Shall I show you more? Elena didn't wait for an answer. The display filled with footage. A pilot with a shattered spine manually landing her damaged ship to save her crew. A engineer staying in an irradiated reactor core for 6 hours to prevent a meltdown knowing it would kill her. A squad holding a position for 3 days without food, water, or sleep against overwhelming odds. You call it madness, Elena said. We call it Tuesday. She returned to her seat. But you're right about one thing. We are fragile. A Krull warrior can shrug off a bullet. A Voth can survive in vacuum for hours. A Sarian's carapace deflects most small arms fire. A human? We die easily. An infection can kill us. A fall from a height. A simple blade to the right spot. We're soft, vulnerable, weak. Vex'thor leaned forward. Then why? Because we learned to make weakness our weapon. Elena's eyes hardened. Every other species in this galaxy evolved to be stronger than their environment. Bigger predators, tougher hides, sharper claws. Humans evolved to be weaker than everything around us. And we won anyway. Do you know how? The alien diplomat said nothing. We became the one species that pain couldn't stop. A Krull warrior is stronger than a human, yes. But break his leg, and he's done. The pain receptors in his enhanced nervous system will shut him down. A human with a broken leg will splint it with a stick and keep moving. We have athletes who finish marathons with stress fractures, mothers who've given birth, and experience your own medical databases describe as catastrophic physical trauma, who are back on their feet within hours. We have soldiers who've been shot, stabbed, burned, and broken who refuse to fall until the mission is complete. Elena pulled up new data. Medical scans, genetic sequences, psychological profiles. After the war started, we ran studies. Compared human pain tolerance to every other species in the known galaxy. The results were illuminating. On average, a human can endure approximately 7 times the pain threshold of a Zanari before losing consciousness, 12 times that of a Krell, 23 times that of a Sarian. Impossible! Vex'thor breathed. Your own scientists verified the data. It's in the classified reports I'm sure you've read. Elena leaned forward. Do you understand what this means? In any prolonged conflict, any war of attrition, any situation where both sides are suffering losses, humans will outlast you. Not because we're stronger, because we're willing to hurt more. Vex'thor's scales flickered through a rainbow of distressed colors. You cannot possibly believe you can win this war through sheer stubbornness. Can't we? Elena smiled, and it was not a kind expression. You've destroyed 12 worlds, killed 40 billion of my people, and I'm sitting here, calm, discussing philosophy with you. Do you think that's because I don't care? Because I don't feel the loss? Her voice dropped. I feel every single death, every child who burned, every mother who suffocated when her dome breached, every father who watched his family die. I carry that pain. We all do. Every human in this war knows someone who's dead, and it makes us fight harder. She stood again, pacing now. Your strategy was sound, by normal standards. Inflict enough casualties and the enemy sues for peace. But humans don't think like that. The more you hurt us, the more determined we become. You turn this into a war of pain tolerance, the single category where we cannot lose. You're bluffing, Vex'thor said. But his conviction was wavering. No species can sustain losses like yours indefinitely. You're right. We can't. We have limits. But the question isn't whether we have limits, it's whether we'll reach them before you do. Elena pulled up new footage. This time it showed training facilities, humans pushing themselves through obstacle courses designed to break bones, endurance tests lasting weeks, pain resistance conditioning that made Vex'thor's scales turn almost black with horror. We've been preparing our children for this since before you fired the first shot, Elena said. Every human child learns pain management starting at age 5, not because we're cruel, because we know the galaxy is dangerous, because we understand that someday, somewhere, we might face an enemy like you, an enemy that thinks they can break us through suffering. She gestured at the screens. These aren't special forces. This is standard education. Every human who reaches military age has been conditioned to function through injuries that would incapacitate any Zenari soldier. We have meditation techniques passed down through thousands of years, breathing exercises, mental conditioning. We've turned pain tolerance into a science. Vex'thor rose from his seat. This is barbaric. You're torturing your own children. We're preparing them to survive. There's a difference. Elena's voice was steel. And before you judge us too harshly, remember that you're the one who started bombing our civilians. You made this a war of suffering. We're just better at it than you expected. The alien diplomat began pacing, his movements agitated. Our military leaders assured us that humans would crack under sustained pressure, that your psychology couldn't handle the losses, that you would surrender. Elena laughed bitterly. Your leaders should have studied more history. Humans have fought wars where casualties exceeded 90%. We've had battles where we knew we would lose, knew we would die, and we fought anyway. At Thermopylae, 300 Spartans held a pass against hundreds of thousands. They died to the last man. We remember them as heroes. At Stalingrad, we fought building by building, room by room, through our own city for months. Millions dead. We celebrated as a victory. On Iwo Jima, we charged machine gun nests knowing most of us wouldn't survive. We planted a flag on that island and called it worth the cost. She was standing directly in front of Vex'thor now. We have a military tradition called holding the line. It means standing your ground even when retreat is the logical choice. Even when you're outnumbered. Even when you're watching your friends die beside you. You hold. Because the mission matters more than the pain. More than survival. We have soldiers who've thrown themselves on grenades to save their squad mates. Pilots who've flown damaged ships into enemy positions. Entire crews who've self-destructed rather than let critical intelligence fall into enemy hands. Vex'thor's translator was struggling to keep up with his rapid clicking speech. You cannot all be suicidal. We're not. We're practical. We understand that sometimes the only way to win is to be willing to lose everything. Elena returned to her seat. But let me tell you what really makes you lose sleep at night, Vex'thor. What your intelligence officers have been whispering about in their reports. The thing you came here to confirm. She touched her wrist control. New footage appeared. Training facilities unlike anything shown before. Humans undergoing procedures. Genetic modifications. Neural augmentation. Pain receptors being systematically rewired. You've been fighting our regular forces, Elena said quietly. Our civilians who took up arms. Our standard military. Brave people, certainly. Pain-tolerant by your standards. But not our best. Vex'thor froze. We have programs. Black site operations that have been running for 30 years. Since before we even met your species. Since the first time we encountered the Krull and realized we were the weakest species in a very dangerous galaxy. Elena's fingers moved across the controls. We took our natural advantages and enhanced them. Soldiers whose pain receptors have been modified to convert agony into adrenaline. Marines whose brains have been rewired to interpret damage signals as tactical data rather than suffering. Pilots who can function with injuries that would send a normal human into shock. The footage showed men and women functioning with catastrophic wounds. A soldier with a penetrating chest wound, still coordinating his squad. A pilot with a severed leg, calmly landing her fighter. A commando with third-degree burns across 60% of her body, completing her mission before seeking medical attention. We call them the Resolved, Elena said. And we've never deployed them. Not once, 'cause we've been hoping you would see reason before it came to that. Vex'thor's scales had gone completely colorless. How many? More than enough. Elena closed the footage. You wanted to know why we won't surrender despite our losses. This is why. Because you're fighting regular humans and barely holding your own. Can you imagine what happens when we unleash soldiers who've been designed from birth to weaponize pain, who've trained their entire lives for the singular purpose of enduring more suffering than you thought possible? She stood one final time. Here's what happens next. You have two choices. Choice 1, you accept our peace terms, full reparations for the 12 worlds, withdrawal from all contested systems, a demilitarized zone spanning 50 light years, war crime tribunals for every officer who ordered civilian strikes. You take this option, and we rebuild. We remember. We forgive. Maybe in a few generations we trade. We coexist. We move past this. Vex'thor waited. Choice 2. You refuse. You continue the war. And we show you what humanity really looks like when we stop holding back. We deploy the resolved. We convert every factory to weapons production. We conscript every able-body. We mobilize our entire species for total war. And we don't stop until either your government surrenders unconditionally or every human is dead. Because that's the other thing you need to understand about my species. We don't have a surrender mechanism. We have victory or extinction. Nothing in between. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. Vex'thor stared at the human queen, his scales shifting through colors too fast for his translator to interpret. He was calculating, running scenarios, weighing odds. Elena sat back down and folded her hands. Your species is remarkable, Vex'thor, truly. Your regeneration, your technology, your culture. In a fair fight, you'd beat us 9 times out of 10. But this isn't a fair fight. This is a contest of who can endure more agony before breaking. And I promise you, human pain tolerance is functionally infinite when we have something to fight for. You're bluffing, Vex'thor said, but there was no conviction in his voice. Am I? Then refuse our terms. Find out. Elena's expression was serene. But before you do, ask yourself one question. In all your intelligence reports, all your battlefield analysis, all your strategic assessments, have you seen any evidence of humans breaking? Even once, even under the worst conditions? Vex'thor thought back. Defeats, yes. Tactical withdrawals, even routs. But actual surrender? Actual collapse of morale? He realized with growing dread that the answer was no. Humans fought until they won, or until they physically couldn't fight anymore. There was no middle ground. We've studied your species too, Elena continued. Zanari soldiers have exceptional regeneration, but poor pain tolerance. Your culture values intelligence, strategy, self-preservation. Your military doctrine emphasizes minimizing casualties because your society can't sustain heavy losses. You've never fought a total war. Never had to. You're too smart for that. Too evolved. Too civilized. She leaned forward. We're not civilized, Vex'thor. We pretend to be. We build beautiful things, create art, write poetry, explore the stars. But underneath, we're still the species that walked out of Africa bleeding and starving and refused to die. We're still the animal that learned to turn pain into power. You can't beat us at suffering. It's the one game we've been playing since before we discovered fire. The alien diplomat's scales had settled into a defeated gray. He knew she was right. His species had already committed their best forces, already deployed their most advanced weapons, already inflicted casualties that should have broken any rational enemy, and humanity hadn't even paused. If anything, human resistance had intensified with each loss. The peace terms, he said quietly. You will have them in writing within the hour. Elena nodded. Wise choice. And Vex'thor, tell your leaders something for me. Tell them that humans don't fear pain. We respect it. Learn from it. Grow from it. But we will never, ever let it stop us. Not from exploring. Not from building. Not from defending what's ours. The galaxy is dangerous. We know that. We accept it. We'll endure whatever we must to survive. But we won't kneel. Not to you. Not to anyone. Vex'thor turned to leave, then paused at the door. Your species is terrifying. Yes, Elena agreed. We are. But we can also be the best friends you'll ever have. It's your choice which version you want to meet. The alien diplomat left without another word. Elena sat alone in the chamber, surrounded by the holographic displays of burning worlds. She closed her eyes and let herself feel it. All the pain, all the loss, all the grief. She let it wash over her, through her. And then she stood. Colonies to rebuild, families to comfort, a species to lead forward. The pain would never truly fade. She didn't want it to. It would remind her of what they'd fought for, what they'd endured, what they were capable of. It would make them stronger, because that's what humans did with suffering. They transformed it, weaponized it, used it as fuel to build something better. She walked to the viewport and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, other species were watching, wondering if humanity could be beaten. She hoped they were paying attention, because the lesson was simple. You could hurt humans. You could make them bleed. You could even kill them. But you could never make them stop. Not through pain. Pain was just another obstacle, and humans had been overcoming obstacles since the day they learned to stand upright and walk into the unknown. That would never change, no matter how many stars they reached, no matter what enemies they faced. Humanity would endure, not because they were the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced, but because they had learned the one lesson that mattered most in a dangerous universe: how to keep moving forward when everything hurts and the only choice is between pain and surrender. And for humans, that wasn't really a choice at all.